I'm Owen Arands in Manchester city centre as we learn failings of the emergency services on the night of the Manchester Arena bomb contributed to one of the victims' deaths.
The emergency services simply failed to get a grip.
There's no denying that some of these failings led to loss of life.
Had firefighters got to the city room as soon as they could have done, they would have removed the injured using proper equipment, which would have been safe and quick.
Some of our clients could hear the sirens outside and kept expecting help to come, but no one came to help them.
The latest report into the attack at the arena has found a lack of communication between emergency services caused severe delays in getting help to those who needed it most. And in the meantime, staff at the arena weren't properly trained or equipped to help.
We heard heartbreaking evidence of the injured and the rescuers who were in the city room, hearing the sirens of ambulances, knowing paramedics were close by, expecting their imminent arrival, only for them not to arrive in the sort of numbers which were needed. Had firefighters got to the city room as soon as they could have done, they would have removed the injured using proper equipment, which would have been safe and quick. Instead, the injured had to be removed on railings and pieces of cardboard, which were uncomfortable, unsafe, painfully, and inevitably this meant that it took longer for each patient to be removed.
And those delays were fatal for one of the 22 victims. The report found 28-year-old John Atkinson probably would have survived if it wasn't for the inadequacies in the emergency response.
One of the other areas covered in the report is the care gap. That is, the inevitable gap between an event such as this bomb explosion happening and the arrival of people trained to give expert medical help. To try and reduce that gap, what we need to ensure is that there are suitable people on site at places such as the arena who are able to give emergency life-saving assistance, which may result in people surviving who otherwise would not if they had to wait for the arrival of medical professionals.
Our reporter Victoria Glover has been following the relatives' reaction to the news.
A legal representative spoke on behalf of 11 of the victims' families who said this report confirmed everything they feared about catastrophic and wholly unacceptable failings from emergency services. They're all united in their hope that action is taken off the back of 25 pages of recommendations so nothing like this ever happens again.
So many failures happened on that night, it is impossible to list them all here. This damning report sets out in meticulous detail how the emergency service response lacked preparedness, planning, coordination, communication, resources and equipment. Almost everything that could go wrong did go wrong. It is totally unacceptable that members of the public were left seriously injured and dying in this way for what must have seemed like an eternity. It is clear that the so-called golden hour after the attack was utterly squandered by the catastrophic response of the emergency services. As Sir John says, the emergency services simply failed to get a grip. What makes this even worse is that so many of the lessons of today's report could and should have been learned after the 7/7 bombings in 2005. 12 years after 7/7, the same things went wrong again at Manchester Arena. The complete and utter failure of the government and the emergency services to learn those lessons and implement them on a national level is wholly unacceptable. This must never happen again.
Well, John Atkinson's wife also gave a statement to be read on her behalf after her fears were confirmed that her husband could have been saved if timely medical treatment had been provided. He was 6 metres from the bomb when it went off.
John was our son, brother, uncle and friend. He lit up our lives, and there is less laughter in the world without him. Since his passing, our lives have been shattered. Today, the inquiry has answered our questions about John's death. It is now clear, beyond any doubt, that on the night of the bombing, John was totally failed at every stage, both by the private medical providers at the arena, ET UK, and the emergency services. It is crystal clear that due to those failings, John died from injuries that he could and should have survived.
Well, just now we've been hearing from the emergency services themselves. Darren Mockery is the Chief Executive of North West Ambulance Service.
I accept the findings and I thank Sir John Saunders and his team for their diligence. We accept that more of our staff should have been deployed into the city room to help triage patients and manage their evacuation. What also produces deep regret is that our ability to work together as Blue Light partners fell well short of the standards we all expected. We take our share of the responsibility for that. We failed to communicate situational awareness reports, we failed to share our major incident declarations, and we failed to establish adequate communication between our control rooms and each other.
Well, the inquiry chairman, Sir John Saunders, has set out 142 recommendations, including better training exercises and command structures to prevent the same mistakes happening again.
I also hope that this inquiry will make a difference and that things that went wrong on the 22nd of May will never be repeated.